So glad to see you again. How are things?
Good.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay. Last time we met, do you remember what we went over?
I do.
What did we go over? Just as a recap, refresher.
It was that rule thing. Remember the rule 72?
Oh, rule
Something
72
like that.
and then the arrow things.
Yeah,
Right,
arrow things.
right,
Very
right.
good. You
Yeah,
guys remember a little bit. So we went over three main things. People are not saving enough money, right?
Yes.
People are not saving in the right place,
Yes.
and people are not making enough money.
Yes.
So you guys indicated on your survey that you wanted to learn how money works, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm here today. So money is just like a game, right? It's all a game. So if we were playing Monopoly right here on this table that we're imaginally sitting at, right? And I knew all the rules to Monopoly and you didn't know any of the rules, how likely would it be for you to beat me?
Not likely.
Not very likely, right? So what I want to do is make sure you know some of the rules, okay? Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are three enemies when it comes to you saving your money. Okay? Enemy number 3. If you remember nothing from me today, remember this one. Inflation. Anybody have a flip chart?
Yes.
Inflation. So, I flip to the end of this book here. You guys know this? So if I were to buy this pen that I'm writing with, right, for $1 back in 1926, in 2006 it finally ran out of ink, it would now be worth $13. Now the pen didn't change. What changed?
The prices or the cost of the dollar.
The cost of the dollar, the value of the dollar, the what did I say, 1 to 13, the value of the dollar, right? Inflation, right? Things go up in price. Eggs go up, milk goes up, bread goes up, right? Gas goes up. Gas was 99 cents when I started driving. And any of you who are older than like 40 or something, you can say what you can kind of indicate what gas prices were, right? So the dark and light blue lines keep pace with inflation the most. Okay, so if I were to have $1, if you were to have $1 on that dark blue line back in 1926, it would have gone through the Great Depression. It would have gone through World War II. It would have gone through the Vietnam War. It would have gone through the 6 marriages of Elizabeth Taylor. And by the end, you'd have $26,641. Now imagine if your grandmother had $100 on that line for you. How much would you have now? $2.6 million. Now, that's small stocks and large stocks at 12.3% and 10.3% respectively. But what I want you to remember is inflation is 3% traditionally for the last 75 years. We say 3.5 in California. So if you're going to invest for your long-term savings, invest in higher than 3.5%. Make sense? Okay. Now, number 2 enemy. Your favorite uncle, you remember him?
Yep.
Uncle Sam, taxation. Now, if you recall, I briefly went over that there were 3 different tax boxes, buckets, whatever you want to call them, to pick and choose from. There's tax now, tax later, and tax never, or tax advantage. Okay? Now, you tell me if you have one of these. In tax now, there's things like checking. You have checking?
Yeah.
Savings. Do you have savings?
Yes.
CDs?
No, I don't know.
Money market accounts?
I might have started wrong without him.
Mutual funds? Stocks? Bonds?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things in here.
Yeah.
Basically what happens here is whenever you earn interest, you earn revenue, you make money, right? They're going to send you a 1098, a 1099, something INT or whatever and say you made money, give it to your tax person, pay taxes on it now,
Yes.
right? Now how fast is your money going to grow if it gets taxed every year?
Not that fast.
Not very quickly, right? But this is a good bucket because you need to pay your bills from this bucket, right? Now there's tax later. People are more familiar with that one. Whose is this? Okay, things like a 401k. Do you have a 401k?
I do.
Do you have a 401k? 401k. 403b, CalPERS, CalSTRS, IRAs, anything you can remember. SEP IRAs, COG IRAs, etc., right? Now, there's a couple of rules. In this bucket, basically, they're not going to tax you until you pull the money out later. Way later, okay? There's a couple rules I want to make sure you're aware of in this bucket. The 59.5 rule. Are you aware of the 59.5 rule? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So the 59.5 rule basically says you cannot touch your money until you're 59.5, right? If you do, there's a 10% federal penalty, a 2.5% state anywhere from 20 to 40% ordinary income tax. Now, how much is left after all that's taken out?
Yeah, it looks like
Half. Okay, right? Now, there's the 59.5 rule, and then there's the 70.5 rule. Now, when you were 18 years old and a U.S. citizen, you were eligible to start a 401k plan or something like that, right? Uncle Sam said, I'm not going to tax you. Now, how does Uncle Sam make money? Taxes, right? By the time you're 70.5, he's tired of waiting, right? So, by the time you're 70.5, if you have not touched enough of your money, there is a 50% excise tax. You wonder why people retire at age 65? Because it's between those two dates. Okay? Now, I like to use my color pen. Let's say you were to buy a bunch of apple seeds for $1. Okay? And you planted those seeds, and they grew into a beautiful apple orchard worth $1 million. Follow me so far? Would you rather pay taxes on the dollar of the seeds or on the $1 million orchard?
Seeds.
The seeds, right? Now, paying taxes on the dollar is actually being in the tax never bucket. You're never taxed again, right? Paying taxes on the $1 million is actually taxed later. Now, unfortunately, people who have $1 million in their 401k think that they're millionaires, which actually they're half-a-naires. Right? Now, people who have $1 million over here actually have $1 million. Now, there's only a couple of things in that bucket, okay? There's the 529 college plan. Now, I already knew that you guys had kids, right? So you have a 13-year-old son, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Bobby, because I know his name.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's say Bobby.
You remember.
Yes, I did. I have it written down on my paper. Bob. So let's say Bobby, straight A's, going for all the financial aid. He's going to go for financial aid. He goes to UCLA. I happen to be a fan of UCLA. Okay. So let's say he's going to apply for financial aid at UCLA. He fills out the FAFSA. My son happens to be 13 as well, right? And he also fills out the FAFSA. Let's say the financial aid officers are looking at both of those accounts, right? Those applications, and say, you know what? Bobby, your parents saved in a 529 college plan. That is so wonderful. Your parents love you. Congratulations. Why don't you use that? Right? And it doesn't look like you have any financial need right now. Then they look at my son Holden's application. They go, oh, you don't have any money saved? Your parents didn't save anything for you? He's in need. Let's give the money to him, my son. I don't think you should be punished for doing the right thing. I just know where to put the money where it's not turned as assets towards his financial aid, towards his college education, okay? The other thing with regards to a 529 plan, it can only use for tuition and books. But also, if your son decides to go find himself in Europe or something like that, you will be penalized for using that money for other than college education, okay? One thing I did forget as well is it has to go to an accredited university that they deem worthy. So if he goes to a vocational school or if he goes to something else, it may not necessarily be covered by that 529, okay? So you're limited on options. Now, the other thing in this bucket, one caveat that I want to throw in there that I throw in there sometimes somewhere in here is there are no bad tools. Each one of these things are good. There's just bad uses of tools. You don't want to use a hammer to screw in a screw, and you don't want to use a screwdriver to hammer a nail, okay? It's just you want to make sure you're aware of the rules, okay? So the other thing in here is the Roth IRA. Similar to an IRA, except it's after-tax dollars. Now, who do you guys bank with?
Is it still Wells Fargo?
We changed a million years ago. It's Bank of America now.
Bank of America. Okay, so Bank of America. Let's say you have 10,000 high. Let's say you have $10,000 to save.
Yes.
Let's say you have $10,000 to save. And you put it with Bank of, is it Bank of America?
Bank of America.
You put it with Bank of America, okay? Now, Bank of America gives you a passbook that says